Hello and welcome, Merce, Blanca, Inma, and Acer. I don't know who are you according to your name, but please welcome to this lecture that I'm going to give you today about the figure of the CLIL teacher. This is an assignment for the Trinity College. And the objective is that you discuss among themselves and with me about the different characteristics that the CLIL teachers or any teacher actually should have, right? I have prepared this Prezi. Well, the original Prezi is much longer and much more complete. I'm going to send you the link of the full Prezi here that also deals with assessment and other topics. And in case you have any more questions or doubts after finishing this lecture, which I am so grateful that you have come, just email me and I will also add it to the assignment. So are you ready to start looking at the figure of the CLIL teacher? Please turn on the microphones, all of you. Ready? Okay. Yes, I'd rather you communicate through microphone if you don't mind, right? Because we are going to have a discussion and I want to hear your comments, etc. Okay, so well, let's get started. First of all, a little bit of an introduction of everybody that has been so nice to come here today. We have Blanca, that is also a teacher. She's already starting her career as a teacher. We have Inma. Inma studied the degree with me and she's a secondary school teacher. Also very interested in CLIL. She is proficient in the English language, and we have Merce, was also finishing the degree at VIU, and she also is a veteran at Acer is you, Monse. Okay, good. Welcome, Monse. So everybody is very experienced in learning online because they have taken degrees and courses online. They are proficient in the English language and also improving. So thank you so much for coming today and carry out this activity with me. Okay, so well, let's start discussing the materials. Okay. We see this nice picture of this young child, a very funny picture, representing the figure of the CLIL teacher in this Prezi presentation. We have Ball, Kelly, and Clegg that wrote the book of Uncovering CLIL, that speak of a hybrid kind of teacher that can move freely across the whole spectrum of language and content teaching, depending on the needs of the students. Let's present a list of his or her characteristics. Well, I have added here a picture of 3 frogs because he liked to show us a picture, Phil Ball, I mean, to show us a picture of the CLIL teacher as a little bit of a hybrid or an amphibian, right? Because whenever he needs to move towards language teaching, he can move towards language teaching, and whenever he feels like moving towards content teaching, he also does that, right? So he can move on land and in water, so to say. So he put this example for us today. We are reviewing it. And these authors present this kind of characteristics that the CLIL teacher as a hybrid figure should have, okay? The teacher guides input and supports output. The teacher scaffolds language and learning. The teacher never assumes that the student understands. This is very important. That's why scaffolding is so important. We are going to discuss, hopefully, about different types of scaffolding, providing scaffolding to the students. The teacher's methodological repertoire widens because he is versed in content teaching and also in language teaching and knows the right methodology for teaching language and also how to teach content accurately. The teacher varies the forms of interaction in the classroom. As you can see, CLIL is very dynamic. I always say that the dual approach is incomplete. It's not content teaching through language learning and language learning through content teaching. You also have to do the triad, the learning skills of the students, and the methodology is extremely important so that the students really acquire the language in practice. It is not enough to know well the subject and to know well the language. You also need the technique, right? Do you agree with that? Do you want to comment on something? You can share your experience already as teachers. You can say any kind of information that you want to share, that you have read in research. No comments so far? Come on, please, somebody comment on something about these characteristics that we are reading. Connect the microphone. Please connect the microphone or well, I will continue teaching. Maybe you have problems with the microphone right now. I will continue reading and then you will contribute, okay? So the focus on the teacher's assessment reflects a greater concern with the process. This is very important. Sometimes we give too much importance to the input, and it is important, right, to create your own materials to adapt the texts that you want the students to learn through different tools, as Prezi can be Genially or Story Jumper. Do you remember Story Jumper from my lessons? And the assessment reflects a greater concern with the process, with how the students are carrying out the activity, right? What we call the formative assessment. Then we have the summative assessment, which is the culmination of a project or a term or a unit. But formative assessment is equally important. The teacher recognizes that academic language consists of different subject of different types of subject-specific discourse. Of course, depending on the subject that you are teaching, you are going to have a specific terminology related to the subject. It's not the same to teach math in English than to teach history, than to teach geography, arts, or any other subject that you need to master to really teach in a CLIL methodology. The teacher understands that education requires a journey from bigs to culp, right? First of all, we are going to encourage informal communication in the classroom. We are going to give oral and written frames, which are the sentences that we use for the students, right? For example, in the textbook, these sentences are used as guidelines, right? In the text, like, can I please ask you about, can you please repeat? I think that this information is useful because these kind of sentences that guide the students into starting a conversation and starting to write, they are called frames, right? Oral or written frames, right? And these frames are necessary to master peaks and then to move gradually towards sculpt, towards more academic language, towards more formal language, right? Formal ways of communication using more linking connectors, etc., right? And the teacher makes the role of language in cognition more salient, according to Paul, Kelly, and Clegg, the book I already mentioned, Uncovering CLIL. So it is important to focus on the cognitive abilities of the students, on the learning skills. That's why I always mention the triad, right? It is important to design activities that are related to content learning through the foreign language than to language learning through a little bit of content. It gives much better results according to the latest research and according to Phil Paul's instruction, right? So please, right now, connect the microphone and comment a little bit on these characteristics. I'm waiting, please. Please, somebody, I need your contributions so that Trinity College accepts my assignment. Somebody, please.
Hello.
Hi, Blanca.
Hello. So I don't know what to say, but I listened to you. I remember experience that I had this last course because I was doing some substitutions in a school. And one day they called me and they told me that I have to do a science class.
Okay.
And a CLIL class. So,
yeah.
And I have to explain, they told me that I have to explain the photosynthesis. So imagine my face that moment when I started to remember, I didn't remember the photosynthesis even in my language. So I started to study the photosynthesis. And when I was at the class and I was explaining that the leaves, the minerals, the sun, and so all the lesson, I saw the faces of my students.
Yeah.
And I noticed that they didn't even know what I am saying. So
yeah.
I have to, in this moment, I have to make a change, and I start to explain the photosynthesis like we are in a kitchen.
Good.
So,
yes, please.
And I told them that we need some ingredients to eat. So the plants too. And the ingredients were the sun, the minerals, the water, and I think that's all. I don't know now. But when I told them that there are the ingredients and in the leaves, there are a kind of recipient that we can cook in it. They start bueno, ahora no me sale.
Understanding.
Yes. They start understanding the lesson. And maybe it's more important to explain the lesson in a manner that they can understand than using the words, these specific words that they don't understand. Maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Good. Your example is fantastic because it relies on experimentation and the comparison to something that the students can relate to. They can relate to, they all know about kitchen recipes, cooking and creating a mixture. And it's also very creative. I've never seen the photosynthesis this way. And it's very efficient, right? Because it's right. You need the water, you need the sunlight, you need a series of ingredients for the plant to do the photosynthesis. So it's fantastic. It's a very, very good example. And did the students learn about?
Yeah. They learned all the photosynthesis, and they told me that they understand it in English better than in Catalan, because I'm from Barcelona, you know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Well, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, because some things I think that in the school, in the books, and it's explained like nobody understands at first.
Yeah,
and maybe going round, maybe we can find something better to explain them.
Yeah, exactly. You have to have this kind of creativity. This is very good. This is fantastic. And it's a very good idea. You know, yesterday I was having not yesterday, on Friday, I was having a CLIL lesson with my new students at VIU, and I was underlining the importance of this creative element and also to add experimentation in the methodology so that the students can relate to, right? So this can mean the journey from big to Culp that Kelly, Clegg, and Ball mentioned, right? You, in informal terms, explained first the process in a way that they can understand and also relying on the previous knowledge. And then you moved towards the theory, because another point that we need to underline is that there are not many books related to the CLIL methodology yet, right? So when you want to be a CLIL teacher, you have most of the time to create your own material and to solve these kind of problems, as Blanca says, right?
Yes, because I saw the science book, and it was the science book that I had from Catalan translated to English.
Exactly. You mentioned something very important here, because it is the key of a lot of failure in teaching, considering the material from CLIL. It is not a translation of a normal book. It has to have a series of characteristics that are inherent to the CLIL methodology. For example, the language frames that I mentioned, right? You have to provide language frames for the students to really start speaking they need this guide, they need this scaffolding, right? And also I can relate your experience to this item, the teacher's methodological repertoire widens. You resorted to comparison to an equivalent, and also you mentioned how to move from this equivalent towards the real thing, and with success. It's a fantastic experience. Very good. What about you, Montse, Merce, Ima? Do you want to say something about what Blanca said, or about the characteristics of the CLIL teacher as a hybrid creature?
Good evening.
Hi, Ima.
Well, I'm going to talk about my experience. As you said at the beginning of the meeting, I'm a secondary teacher. And in some courses, we have CLIL classes. We have a project with the geography and history teacher, with the English one. And as Blanca and you said before, it's important to work with the specific vocabulary to help the students with the contents of the subject, because the geography and history class is doing in English.
Yeah.
But in our English class, we work all the grammar with a specific vocabulary of the history class. So by this way, students can learn better the contents of the historic class.
Yes, yes, it's good. And what techniques do you use to teach geography, history to the secondary school students?
Well, what we do in class is to take the specific vocabulary of, for example, Middle Ages for as a topic, and work with it. Instead of when we teach the present simple, says, for example, Peter buys a car, we use, for example, that these men create stones, for example.
Okay, good. Yes, great. Yes, you can perfectly translate the structures, the typical structures that we learned at language sessions, right? For example, the apple is on the table. We've all learned this structure in our lives.
Hammer is on the table.
Exactly. And we can change using the same structure, but teach content that is more appropriate, is not so senseless, because nobody cares if there is an apple on the table, but you can use this structure to say, I don't know, William the Conqueror on the year 1066 was in England, or something like that, right? You teach history and geography. And do you use a lot of digital tools to, all of you, please, to present material or design material for your students?
Well, I use Genially. I don't know.
Very good. Genially, yes.
This tool, and for them is a way to motivate them, because it's quite different from PowerPoint or another resource, and they like to touch the different interactive buttons, and I think that is a good opportunity to help them to study.
Yeah, don't you all agree that these tools that we have available, Prezi, Genially, are much better ways to present information to the students than simply worksheets or PDFs, files, etc.? What do you think? Anybody, please.
I think it's better, but in the school that I was doing substitutions, the internet connection
oh yeah,
it was a mistake. So I have to improvise all the time.
Yeah, the problem with technology, yes. Ideally, technology should always work well, etc. But we have this problem.
Yeah. So I have this problem many times.
You've had this yes, it's always a good idea to have a plan B. That's what I always do. I create my materials, but at the same time, I also create my worksheets or my flashcards or my whatever.
Or use the material from the class.
Yes, the textbook, and then you adapt it, but this is more complicated, right? To create an activity that is CLIL with a book that is really not that well adapted. So it is also a challenge, but it's fantastic, right? That you are able to do that, and that we as teachers are able to do that, to improvise and to it's sometimes challenging and scary, but it's also very rewarding, right?
Yes.
So very good.
And many times I ask them how to solve the problem, to see their ideas or something.
Yes.
and just for me to have more time to think.
That's good. You know, Phil Ball showed us, because I had a very fixed idea about the scaffolding, which was flashcards, picture, word, and the sound of the word, right? You know, my lesson plans are filled with flashcards with the picture, the word, and how to pronounce the word, and the concept, etc. But he taught us other ways to provide the scaffolding. And one of these is to present just a picture. He gave us an example presenting just a picture of the Statue of Liberty, and simply ask the students, what can you tell me about this picture? And of course, the students are puzzled. They don't know what to say. So they need to arrange in groups and to speak in groups about what they think this sculpture means, where it is, what does it represent, what is it like, right, with a torch in the hand and whatever, the stars on the head, and etc. And in the end, the students themselves create the scaffolding. And if they don't know something, they can also do research. So they are encouraging through this way the critical thinking, and at the same time being autonomous. If you don't know something, you look for research and you look for information, group work, collaborative work. And also they encourage the creativity in the answers. And then the debates in class about what this figure means, that what this picture, the Statue of Liberty means for everybody, provides the final scaffolding. So it is a more active way to present a scaffolding than simply picture, word, and how to pronounce this word, right? I think somebody is joining us. So very good. Do you want to mention something else about these characteristics of the CLIL teacher as a hybrid figure? Very good contribution so far. Blanca, Ima, thank you so much. What about you, Monse? Merce, I think, is having connectivity problems. She'll be here in a minute.
Hi, hello to everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I am, in my experience, I have not got a lot of experience with CLIL as a teacher yet, but I can say to you that last course I saw a teacher that uses this methodology with students of 5 and 6 primary grade, and they are really amazing for them. They really studied a lot, and the methodology motivates them very much. Yes, and they studied about science of the earth, and also regarding about the trees and the plants related to the plants and the trees that are in the school, near in the school. Yes, they are really motivated and really interesting for me also. And they also started to write a book related the content that they were studied on that time.
Oh, fantastic. That's good. Writing books about CLIL are necessary. Is necessary, yes, right? Yes. Because we still have very scarce books properly addressing the methodology in CLIL, right? So most of the books that we have, as Blanca said, are just translations of common textbooks, and this doesn't work. So it is a very good news that they are planning to create a book, and even if the students are involved, this will be even better, yes, right?
Yes, yes. So it means that the students created their own material. So yes, it was really, really interesting for them.
Yes, absolutely. The more involved they are, the more motivated they are going to be, and also they feel that they are taken into account in class, right? Yes. So it is a very good technique to use. Very good. And Merce, can you tell us something about these characteristics that we are presenting here? Do you agree that teaching through digital tools enhances the experience? I don't know if she can. I think she is having problems with the microphone. Well, let's move to the next slide, if you agree, and then we are going to continue talking. So you can see here, this is a real hybrid, right? A hybrid. This is a cat, right? That's this characteristic. And as you can see, the Prezi presentation that I prepared, I tried to make it with animations to make it attractive for the students. And Phil Ball, Kelly, and Clegg also say, the successful CLIL teacher has a list of characteristics, which I would like to comment with you right now. They present clear lesson frames. The lesson will begin with X and then with Y. This is important because you remember at VIU, we provide the assessment criteria from the very beginning, and also you have access to the rubrics from the very beginning before starting the lessons. You also have to do that with the students. You have to present them the goals, the learning results, the competences that you are expecting, they are expected to accomplish, right? And what to do, and express their doubts, express their the insecurities that they may have from the very beginning with the lesson that they are going to face in that moment. And also, it is a very good idea to review at the end of the session if these learning results, if these goals have been accomplished. You can create a debate, a peer assessment, or self-assessment, so that the students have more awareness about whether they have learned and acquired the language, the content that they had to master, and if they are satisfied with the results. What do you think about this? I don't think if Merce can turn, yes, the microphone is on. Can you contribute, Merce? Merce, are you there? Well, anybody else wants to say that? Do you provide, for example, you, Inma, do you provide the rubrics to the students before a lesson? Do you think it will be a good idea to do that?
Yes, well, in fact, I do that.
You do that?
Yes, because I think that the students have the right to know how I'm going to evaluate them, sorry. So before making a project or activity, I explain to them and I give to them a rubric with the items that I'm going to evaluate.
Good. And do you generally accomplish the, 1 second, there is something at the chat. You have problems with Wi-Fi, Merce, it's okay. Don't worry. Well, maybe it is solved throughout the session. And do you generally think that the parameters in the rubric are accomplished, Tima?
In some cases, yes, but not in all the students. But if you don't give them a rubric, I think that most of them are lost.
Exactly. Yes, they don't know what to expect. And I don't know about your experience, but my experience was that we never had this kind of information during our lessons. right? We even at university, right, Inma, they never gave us rubrics or whatever. They just came, gave the lesson, and that's it. Case closed. And I think it's a better methodology, part of the methodology, to add this, to add the goals, the expectations that we have, that the students accomplish, and also what they need to master, what they need to do, what they need to learn. Fantastic. Then we have clear instructions on how to complete the class tasks. I think this is absolutely necessary. I think that you will agree with that, right? It's related to the previous topic with the lesson frames. Sometimes we don't have clear instructions, but in very particular examples, as I said about the picture of the Statue of Liberty, right? It's part of the lesson, it's part of the scaffolding, like a form of introduction, but then the activity, the real activity, needs to have clear instructions and detailed instructions. Do you agree with that? Anybody, please?
In my case, I tell them the clear instructions, and also I mimic and do the clown too.
Good, good. This is always a good idea, Blanca.
And because I am a primary teacher, you know.
Yeah.
So in secondary, maybe it's not the better way, but
Yeah.
in primary, it's
in
so
primary
good.
it is perfect. In primary, it's perfect.
And also I do an example. I can do an example 3 times before they start. I don't know.
Yes, very good. And we need not be afraid of using humor and using realia or dressing up for an event, for example, with the lesson plan that you all know about the microscope. It is always a good idea to encourage the students to come with a white robe, you know, this white coat that the scientists use, and we also dress up as a scientist. So these kind of things are good for the students, because all these things are helpful to catch the students' attention and to maintain the students' attention. It's the same as aesthetics. When a resource is aesthetic, the students have more interest in focusing the attention on the resource much more, and they have much better feelings. So it is always a good idea. Okay, come clear instructions given in all different kinds of ways, not only just a page of a book with instructions, but also a dynamic explanation is the best way. Fantastic. Then frequent comprehension checks. Of course, we need to guide. We are facilitators. We need to give the students a little bit of freedom to express themselves and to do research, and sometimes to be puzzled before they know the answer. We need to do that, but we also need to guide them to check regularly if the students are understanding everything. What do you think? Joaquin is joining us. Hi, Joaquin, welcome, Shimo. We are discussing the characteristics of the ideal CLIL teacher. So if you want to join us, joining with the microphone and the camera if possible as well, fantastic. So yeah. What do you think about frequent comprehension checks in the students, to know that this is part of formative assessment, right? This is part of the evaluation of the process rather than the final test, which is the evaluation at a definite point in time, right? So what do you think? Do you do frequent comprehension checks in your teaching practice? Anybody, please? Somebody? Well, I assume that you all do, right? You all do frequent comprehension checks, you correct, you recast the sentences in the first language into the second language, etc. So I think it's something general in your teaching practice, right? So using a clear, loud voice with marked intonation and pitch, of course, we need to speak clearly, but not exaggeratedly, because then we will make the students lost. We need to speak naturally, but also clearly. Do you practice your English often on your own? Your written English, your oral English? To enhance your ability.
I practice it with songs.
Very good, with songs, it's fantastic. Yes, I also
Yeah.
love songs. I also love music. And it is so, yes, please continue, Blanca.
No, it's this.
Okay, a good thing that you can do as well is to read poetry aloud. I teach my students that need to enhance their language learning abilities in English to read poetry aloud, because it allows you to compare sounds with the rhymes, right? And also to have a better intonation, and also language learning, vocabulary learning, and so forth. I use very simple poems like Dr. Seuss poems, etc., except Fox in Socks, which is very complicated. And if the students are older, I use Edgar Allan Poe poetry, because I find it is very beautifully written and it rhymes perfectly. So practice, okay? The ideal CLIL teacher practices a lot about clear, loud voice with marked intonation and pitch. It's necessary to practice oral English daily, right? Whether it's input, listening or reading, whether it's output, speaking with other people, and writing, right? So it's very important. Warm encouragement, right? You always need to be kind to the students, even to the tougher students, especially to the tougher students, right? You always need to praise them when they do something. And something that I really love to do is to make them think about their progress. Wow, you said it very well right now. It's fantastic. 1 second, there's a chat. Have you noticed how you have improved? And the students notice that they have improved, and the classmates also notice that. How do you do that? How do you provide encouragement to the students during your teaching sessions? Anybody, please?
As Blanca said before,
Yes.
also in secondary official, you have to do the clown too.
Yes.
But I think that if you offer different kinds of materials, I think that by this way you can encourage or motivate them. Because yes, unfortunately, not all of them love our subject, which is English.
Exactly.
So you have to create some materials, some new materials, and also you have to prepare some activities that they can be interested in.
Yes, very good. Triggering, yes, the interest of the students, using material that the students may feel attracted to. Yes, good.
So you have to, if you have to do a TikTok with them, you can do it in order to call their attention.
Yes.
Or maybe you can create material related with their famous singer or these kind of things.
Or TV show, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a TV show that I always recommend to watch from Netflix, which is called Never Have I Ever. And it's for older students, right? For secondary students, and they may love this one because it's very fun, but it also speaks about multiculturalism, multiracialism, and also about, they actually speak about their assignments at the school. You know, typical TV shows about teenagers going to school, you never see them in class. Well, this is not the case in this TV show, so Never Have I Ever. Remember that, and it's fantastic. It's a very nice show. I love it. So repetition, drilling. Imma, do you remember the drilling when we learned the declensions of Old English? Stanam.
History language.
Yes, yes.
But,
Rata.
but I think that in some cases, for example, in the case of irregular verbs, unfortunately, you have to learn them with drilling.
Yeah.
And that there is not another way to learn it.
Exactly. Well, you have to provide as well exercises in which they use the regular verbs naturally, like filling the gaps in the text, something like that. But yes, I really believe in drilling. And I have a game that I always play with the younger students that are bad at memorizing, which is, okay, let's read the whole list of the irregular verbs. And whenever you fail one, you go to 0.0 and you start all over again. And they take it as a game, they have fun, and they repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. So it is very efficient for them to memorize in a funny manner. This is a good idea. Like, okay, be, was, were, being, began, begin, began, begun. And then the third one, they fail and they have to repeat again, begin, began, begun, etc. And they do drilling, right? And it's a good way to make them have fun, because they say, oh no, again from the very beginning. And I said, yes, do it. And it's fun. So repetition and drilling. Then clear, syntactically simple sentences. We are going to start in this way. You know, you can't take a text from Encyclopedia Britannica, for example, and present it like this. You have to simplify the text, provide only the most important information, particularly in primary, right? The students are not required to be experts on the matter in such way. For example, Prince Albert, the consort of Queen Victoria, Prince Albert is announced, Saku Kobulgota, etc. They can avoid, right? So simplifying, providing clear, syntactically simple sentences for the students, particularly at the very beginning, before moving more deeply into CLIL, right? And using visual aids. And that's why I always create Prezis. You know, I have created around 1,000 Prezis already because I like Prezi more than Genially. I don't know why. I like Prezi. And I think that visual presentations that are also interactive, and that they provide videos, and that they provide a lot of adequate images, and that they are aesthetic, are much more efficient than reading from a textbook. What do you think? Shimo, for example, what do you think about this? Or Blanca?
I think it's more better visual supports. I hate the books.
Yes.
I hate the books because I told earlier, it's the translation. and I hate it.
Yes. And do you remember when you were at school and you had the new books at the very beginning of the course, and you browsed through these books and you got so scared because you said, wow, I have to learn all this. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, this happened, right? And it was
Yes.
like, I'm never going to know all this, right? And it's like a pain, you know,
And this still
hurts.
happens now.
And it still happens, yes. So and sometimes you didn't even have time to reach the end of the book at the end of the semester. This happened to me, right?
Yeah.
Books, textbooks, of course, literary books are another issue, but textbooks should be more, in my opinion, my personal opinion, more substituted with this kind of Moodle platforms with digital resources, etc., right? So, rich classroom environment. What can you tell me? How do you make your classrooms rich, safe, and entertaining? Anybody, please?
I think that the best way is to motivate the participation of all students. You know, so it means that create a lot of different, for example, activities using many different resources. For example, Kahoot, and first and the second grade in primary, it works very good because they like to do it very much, in my experience. And it consists, in my opinion, to motivate all students to speak and to learn the English language. And it works very well in my experience.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Monse. Yes.
And also with songs, with songs also. And another times, for example, with a play that appear I don't know, a character that it's very popular for them. For example,
yeah, celebrity, a singer, yes. An actor,
yes,
or actress.
Right. Yes, yes,
exactly.
Yes, as example, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It is. This is very good idea. This is a very good idea. Right, to use famous figures that are inspiring, right? No, because there are many celebrities that are not that inspiring, but to use celebrities that they can look up to. This is fantastic. And for example, if you are teaching PE, physical education, you don't need to focus only on the different names of the movements that the students may have or the terminology of the sport, but you can also provide biographies of famous sportsmen, sportswomen that are proficient in this kind of sports. And this also facilitates learning because it's more input, it's more it's another text that they can understand and information that they will be interested to. So fantastic. So yes, rich classroom environment, and always remember the classroom should be properly decorated with a good level of light, of sunlight, whenever possible. Yes, Chimo? Yes, and dynamic, the tables of the desks, sorry, should be in groups, grouped instead of just in rows. What do you think, Chimo?
Yeah, I think so. I think the class, the students must feel the class like a second or third house. I mean, they must be confident inside. They has to be really comfy. So I agree with, for example, when they can decorate all the class, all the walls with some pictures that they can create in free time or something like that. As well, it's really interesting when the classrooms, I think so, it's really important when they have some windows, because it's a clear environment. The white walls as well is really, I don't know how to say, it's really it's like comfort or relax. You can feel it with that. So it's, these colors are really good for them. So it's because, I mean, it's good for create a good environment. So after that, yeah. So I think if the students are comfy at class because they did something for the class for create this environment, they will be more confident. So they can maybe participate more in class. They can be more like so they can stay more
can feel more
pay attention on the class and these things because they
Yes.
feel that it's like just a second house or something like that.
I will go beyond that, and I will say even that it will be a good idea to add plants to the classroom, right? And decoration that is nice, because the students, when they are in contact with nature, even if it's a plant or whatever, it is much more calming than just 4 white walls with full of desks and whatever. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes, that will be nice, right?
Yes.
And so we need to find the special kind of plants that don't require much sunlight, but we can do that, right? And then constructive.
Or even in that case, we can put the plants outside because probably all the schools has like a small garden or a small place.
Yeah, that will be good for a recess, for example, do some science project and go to the orchard or to the garden and learn about the plants, etc. But well, in the learning space, I really like plants in the
and I think so as well. That is really good because they are getting some responsibilities.
Exactly, to take care of the plants, not to harm the plants, exactly. Well, we know in preschool, they almost always have their classroom pet, particularly fish or silkworms or so forth. And in primary, secondary, this is lost. And I think it's not a good idea because it is really relaxing for a classroom to have some natural elements, right? Particularly alive natural elements and like plants. So constructive criticism of a student's work. There are several ways to correct a student. You can ask them questions. You can recast, which is that the student says something in the first language and then you say yes, and you repeat the same in English and make him or her repeat. Right? This is recasting, and this is very good because the student feels understood and is eager to learn the proper way to say it in English. Do you agree with that? Do you have any other techniques to provide constructive criticism? Of course, if the students are doing something wrong, we need to correct them, but never in a punishing way. I think that you will all agree that. And I also don't encourage a lot of competitivity in the classroom. I don't think it's a good idea, right? I think that more inclusive activities, group activities in which everybody wins are much better than these kind of environments in which competitiveness is rewarded, right? Do you agree with that?
Yes, because I think if everybody's winning, doing
yes,
doesn't matter the activity, all of them are getting some getting some self-esteem with themselves,
exactly.
And this is good for them. Because if they think that they are taking part of some group, if there is someone or some students that are losing, at the end they are creating a bad environment in themselves. At the end they can say that I don't care nothing, or it's like you are losing students, and this is not a good idea. For that reason, I think it's better if all of them are working together. It's difficult It's difficult, but we need to do it, or we need to try to do it.
Yes, I think it depends on how we plan our lesson plans, but I totally agree that it also implies inclusiveness, right? One person is good at one thing and another person is good at another thing, and they the students are more aware of our differences, and they can even prevent bullying, these kind of behaviors like outcasting someone from the group because you are not good in this or that, or you are whatever. So these kind of inclusiveness techniques are absolutely necessary. So clear, orderly explanations and sequencing the processes. First we see these and we see the other, and finally the result we see is. So no flashbacks, no flash forwards in primary, right, particularly. So we start here, we develop the activity here, we present the final project later on, this kind of very clear structure. Do you agree that this is appropriate? Anybody, please?
Well, I think if we need to follow always the same process with them, no? Because I think so is really constructive.
Yes.
Because at the end they are always learning different things, but with the same process. So it's really easier for them work on the same way.
Fantastic.
I'm not sure about that, but I think so is my opinion.
Yes, yes, I agree totally with you. The students, particularly when they are learning a second language, and it's enough of a challenge for them that they really need to know as clearly as possible what they have to do, how they have to do it, and when, right? So this is a good idea, a good contribution. Then vocabulary made comprehensible by explanation, visual, reformulation, say things in a different way, recasting our words, rephrasing our words. This is also very important, right? Any experience that you want to share about this?
Okay. I think you need to always to explain the vocabulary in the with the correct or the right words.
The scaffolding yes, the scaffolding stage. Exactly.
And if is it possible to give to them the best definition possible, or the best chance to understand the meaning of the words or the sentence. If not, you can give to them another synonymous, or you can work with these words.
Yes.
Synonyms, I think so is better for them, because sometimes we are using always really easier words, but we know that there is another synonyms that are really well, not difficult, but the people normally are not using them. So it's just maybe for television, or it's really polite or really professional way to say the things, but maybe it's not the best one for the children.
Yes, this is Blanca says the explanation of the photosynthesis, going to the kitchen to cook, is an example for that. Absolutely, Blanca. Yes, because you explain the process first. We sow the seed, then we water the seeds, then the roots grow, and then the plant grows, and then all the process, right? So yes, it is a sequence. Particularly if you teach science, many things come in cycles: the water cycle, the 4 seasons, everything is in cycles. So it is a good idea to make them aware of the different sequences in nature and also in the projects that they have to carry out, and also to teach them that at first maybe they are not doing very well, but then later on with practice, they are going to be much better, much more competent, and this is also part of the process. So this is very, very important. I truly agree with what you say, Chimo, Blanca. And then students given time to answer. This is very important because sometimes we rush to give the right answer because we have very few time, we have little time to finish a lesson, and sometimes we get nervous because we need to reach to a point in the classroom and the students are a little bit slower. We need to manage somehow so that we do not rush the students to answer or to participate. What do you believe about this, please? Anybody? Do you give students time to answer? Or do you rush to correct them or to give the right answer?
I give them time, and also many times I made groups to take the answer, because in primary it's better that they debate to waste time.
Yes, this is very important, Blanca, because collaborative learning is very, very important skill to develop in the 21st century. Educative skills is that the collaboration and autonomy are combined together so that you can get the answers. So very good. Giving time, different types of questions asked. You can recast the question in many different ways. For example, the example of the Statue of Liberty. What do you see here? What is this? Or what, do you know where this statue is located? Or do you know what it represents? So many kinds of different questions are good for the students to guide them towards the knowledge that they have to acquire. Well, this is a Statue of Liberty, it's in New York, it's in the USA, and it represents liberty and the land of freedom. So guiding the students through the proper questions, right? Do you agree with that? And going beyond yes, no questions, right? This is also very important. In many failed CLIL attempts, the teachers only ask yes, no questions, and the students' output is limited to yes and no in many lessons, right? So we need to try to avoid these yes, no questions and make content questions instead. Do you agree with that? Anybody, please?
Yeah, I think that this kind of question we need to avoid, no, because if not, if the answer is yes or no, it's not clear for the teachers if they understand the meaning of the question or not, and probably the students just say yes or no, and some of them doesn't know the answer.
Yeah, it's true. And in this case, a classmate can help. Yes, group work also solves this. If you don't know the answer, the classmate may know it and they discuss, right? And they learn to manage by themselves, to work in groups and also to look for resources. And we need resourceful students. So very good. And then full involvement of students, time limits for group tasks set, and appropriate language one use, according to Philball, Hood, and Clegg. So the students should always be involved, all of them. We need to try to avoid segregation in the classroom. The labeling, you know, this is the clown of the class, this is the nerd. you know what I mean, right? We need to avoid that the students themselves label each other, and that we also add labels or reinforce these labels, right? Of course, we need to put time limits for group task sets. If you need a little bit more time, you can give it time, but it is also a skill that the students need to develop, is to control the time that they have available, and also the space. You know, I always write too much, right? So this is important to know the limits, to be able to do the task in a definite amount of time. If there is any problem, then we recast the activity and they give them a few more minutes. But in general, we are going to try to make tasks that are whose level of difficulty is can be accomplished in a definite amount of time. Do you agree with that?
I think that you have to tell them that, for example, you have 10 minutes to do this activity and you have to finish it, because if you don't say a specific time, they start talking about what they did during the weekend.
Exactly. Yes, with a definite framework as regards the time that they have, it is important, right? And if they talk about the weekend in English, this will be also valid in CLIL. But if they talk in Spanish about what they did in English or the Netflix series that they are watching, then we are wasting time that we could that we could use in the actual lesson. Very good. It is very important to keep them busy. I remember when I started teaching, I always prepared a ton of activities so that the students were so busy that they didn't have any time left for talking or disrupting the classroom or whatever. So it is a technique, it worked, right? Let's go from one activity, now let's do the other, now let's do the other. Oh, the time is up, bye-bye, see you next week. This happens, right? And it works, it works. And then appropriate language one use, you know that in CLIL, there is the phenomenon of translanguaging. Some students are going to mix their mother tongue with their second language, in this case English, during the process of adaptation, of acquisition to the second language. They are going to use words in Spanish or even structures in Spanish that they don't work in English. And we always need to be aware that this is a normal part of the process. I always say CLIL is a methodology that takes around 5 to 8 years to master during the school time. So we need to be aware of the fact that we are going to accomplish a little bit. We are not going to end up primary with truly bilingual students, but we are going to end up primary with students that have improved a little bit significantly, right? Do you agree with that? Anybody? Montse, for example, you what do you think? Anybody, please? You know that language one is allowed in the CLIL classroom. This is not hard CLIL. This is soft CLIL in primary, and in secondary it depends on the students. It's a little bit in the middle,
okay.
Not really soft, not really hard. And then of course at university level it's hard CLIL. But we really need to be realistic about the possibilities of our Spanish speaking students. Yes, Shimo, please.
No, I just wanted to ask you, because I didn't, you already explained it, that I didn't know what it means L1. So now that you already explained it, how many levels that are from CLIL?
Well, you have soft CLIL. Well, Phil Ball didn't like this classification, but well, basically there is soft CLIL, which is more oriented towards language learning through content, but the content is a sort of excuse for the language learning. Soft CLIL, you need to use soft CLIL in primary. We need to be realistic. And then there is hard CLIL. In the hard CLIL is more oriented towards content learning, and it is assumed that the students that study through hard CLIL are more proficient in the language and require less explanations. They know more CALB, etc. Apart from that, CLIL is an umbrella term. It can go from a language shower in preschool, just teaching a song and a game, to authentic bilingual programs with native people in the classroom, etc. So it's an umbrella term, we say. It's a wide range of possibilities depending on the students, on the educative institution, on a lot of factors. But in primary, I always recommend soft CLIL approach, right? More devoted to teaching the language and using the language correctly than focusing too much on the fact that the language is assumed and just teach content. As Blanca said, these textbooks that are simply translations from Catalan or from Spanish, but there's no more difference. These are hard CLIL, and these don't work for primary and in most of the times for secondary either, right? So we really need to adapt the materials. And that's basically it. Do you have any more comments or contributions to give? Well, there is then this exercise that is a 30 minutes discussion. I think that we have accomplished that with this great discussion. You all have made very interesting contributions. I'm really grateful. And what do you think? Do you think that this session has been useful? Do you think that the Prezi was a good way to present the activity? What can you give me? Please, some final feedback, everyone.
Okay. I think, of course, all the English class are really useful because we need to practice and we need to understand all the situation and all the material as well. And especially that one, because that one is already a new one. So we need to start to learn as much as we can and as soon as possible all the content about the CLIL, because we need to adapt and start to use in class.
Exactly. Very good. Yes, that's the idea, to use it in class and to have a first-hand experience about what CLIL is. And remember, this is just good practice, basically. What we have seen in this presentation today, you can also apply it if you are not going to teach in English, right? To give time to the students to answer, to give rubrics. All this is good practice, right? But in the CLIL teacher, it is even more important because the students may get lost much more easier. Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you so much. What about you, Mercé? I know Mercé Monse, Mercé Fel.
Hi. It has been a really interesting this class, because I think that there are many characteristics that I have really saw, as I told you before in last course. Although I have not used a CLIL methodology because I have just started as a English teacher in a first and a second grade in primary school. But it has been really interesting, this session.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope my supervisor at Trinity College believes the same as well, thinks the same as well. Thank you very much for your kind feedback. I really hope that it made you think about the figure of the teacher, of the second language teacher, and also the CLIL teacher specifically. What about you, Blanca? Did you find this session useful and interesting?
Yes, all your sessions are useful.
You are fantastic. Blanca.
You know, I like your classes because it's more discussion and debating than reading and watching the slide. So
Yeah.
I like it very much, and I like to see you again.
Yes, I'm also really, I want to go to Barcelona to visit you. I also want to go to Madrid to visit some students. I want to go to Valencia to visit some students as well. As
You
soon
have
as
to
the
go around the
COVID,
world.
yes, as soon as the COVID thing stops, I will definitely come and pay a visit with you, and also to have a nice coffee and to have a nice chat. Thank you so much, Blanca.
Yes. Thank you.
You know that you are my proficient student.
Thank you.
She got the distinction. Blanca got the distinction. She's fantastic. What about you, Inma? Did you find this session useful, please?
Well, I think that this session is very useful because you point some items that an English teacher has to follow. And you deal with important topics and interesting ones, and thanks to your participants you can hear and listen another opinions, or that can help you in your classes.
Yeah.
And the visual resources that you uses are good, because if you, in some case, you don't follow the video conference because you have internet problems or you don't understand something, having outlined with all the topics, I think is very useful.
Yes, thank you. Ima is a secondary school teacher and a proficient one, and also very experienced. And I was really, really happy to have you in this session today as well. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming here on Sunday at 8 o'clock until 9:30. And I'm really grateful, for real. And well, somebody else wants to say something?
Well, I think that for me, it was a pleasure to hear you again and to help you with your project.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am going to carry out more projects. I'm going to keep you informed, right? Because it's always interesting to share what we are doing, what we are achieving, and what we are going through. Okay, so don't worry if I do any more projects that are worth experiencing, I will keep you informed. Well, thank you very much for coming. Everybody has told their opinion, right? I think so. Not missing anybody. So sorry for Merce. Poor Merce had problems with, she's fantastic as well. Poor Merce had problems with the Wi-Fi. Well, let's leave it here for today, and I will send you a link to the presentation so that you also have it. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of the Sunday evening, sorry. And let's continue in contact, right?
Okay, thank you for all.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, see you.
See you, bye-bye. Thank you so much.